Hello, hello, traders, stock fans out there. How's it going? My name is Jason Krutzky. It is a great pleasure to be with you all this morning. It is Thursday morning, 30 minutes before the bell, and we've got a short week this week. This is our Friday trading day. So it's going to be interesting to see how the markets go today. We had jobless claims come out this morning. I believe the number was 220 or 228 versus about 200 expected. So maybe a bit like 10% higher on the jobless claim side than anticipated. Now, generally, this sort of bad news is good news for the markets. I'm not seeing much out there. I actually have intentionally not looked at much this morning because I wanted to come at it with fresh eyes with you guys today. I didn't want any opinions coming into the show. I just wanted to look at things fresh, and I haven't really looked at anything. I had a busy day yesterday, so I didn't really look at many charts yesterday either. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see how things are looking out there. But before we get into that, a late happy Passover. I believe Passover started yesterday. Excuse me. Happy Passover to those who observe. We have Easter this weekend. Happy Easter to those who observe. How are you guys doing today? How's everyone? How has your trading week been going? Have you been doing well? Have you been sitting on the sidelines? Have you been doing poorly? How's it going? Let me know, and let me know where you're tuning in from. Say hello in the chat. Love to get to meet everybody who tunes into these. As I say, kind of every time I'm live, these morning shows are really a chance for you guys to ask questions about TrendSpider. We can look at any charts you guys want to look at. We can kind of do whatever. I don't have a huge agenda today. Morning from Jersey, Carl Medley. What's happening, buddy? Hope you're well. How's Jersey looking today? I've got a few social media friends who live in that area, and it seems like things are looking pretty good in the Northeast these days. Lovely spring you guys got springing up there. I'm in Colorado myself, and though it's melting now, we had like 4 inches of snow on the ground yesterday, so we haven't really quite seen the spring. I do believe that this weekend is supposed to be pretty nice, so I'm quite looking forward to that. Getting on the trails, getting on the mountain bike, and cruising around. Haven't had a play in the market since the 12-point jump on Tesla last week. Yeah, sometimes if you're not sure, it's really not sometimes. If you're not sure, it's always best to kind of sit and wait. If you can't pay attention, or if you don't, if you have a refined strategy, you can always put trading bots and signal stack into use and let that thing just run for yourself. But if you don't have that set up yet, or you don't have or you're more of a manual trader, you like to be more discretionary. It's hard. It's hard to always be trading, right? You want to kind of wait for your scenarios to set up. You want to wait for those setups to come. Yesterday, the reason why I've got XLF up here on my chart is yesterday we had a Twitter space. I don't know if anybody was tuned into that, but we had a Twitter space yesterday. We were talking to a handful of really smart traders. We had JC Peretz from All Star Charts. We had Brian Lund from the Lund Loop. We had Samantha Leduc from Leduc Trading, Michael Naus from Trade Ideas. We had a good group of folks on. And good morning, Austin. How are you today, sir? We had a good group of folks on. I want to link you guys to it. Here's a link to the Twitter space that we did yesterday with them. And one thing that JC kind of has been banging the drum about is XLF and the Russell small caps. Obviously, the banks had a nice push last week off of those lows. And now they're kind of coming in a little bit, and they might just be retracing. But the thing that he kind of wanted to make sure everybody was keeping their eye on was the 2008 highs. Notice that the 2008 highs, the 2018 highs, the 2020 highs, you're seeing a little bit of a theme here. It's like a really, really important level. And what he kind of kept saying was, you cannot, nothing good happens excuse me, nothing good happens below this line. Really need the financials to stay above this line. You can't have a bull market without financials. And so you need financials to stay above this line. So if you're kind of on the, not on the fence, but if you're kind of in the camp where you're not really sure where the market is headed here, this is a good technical spot to be just always mindful of. If price is above this $31 level, then we're kind of in okay shape. If price falls below this level, we might have some trouble on our hands. So it's something that I'm keeping in the back of my mind. I actually should have this on my personal watch list here, so I'm just going to add it real quick to that. He also said the small caps. Now, I'm not wildly familiar with the Russell small caps. I mean, I know IWM, obviously, and IWM is in a big spot. If you guys know off the top of your head specifically if there is a specific Russell small caps ticker symbol, curious to know what it is, because I've always thought of the IWM as just the small caps, but it's the same kind of deal, right? You've got those 2018 highs, 2020 highs, and we're just hanging out right here, kind of like right at equilibrium. We gained them, now we're coming back and we're holding them. And what's concerning here is just the amount of time that we've spent down here testing. If you had a single test and a bounce and continued higher, great, it's holding. But the more time you spend at these levels, the more likely they are to not ultimately hold. So this is going to be another one that we're keeping a very, very close eye on. With that, though, what are you guys keeping a close eye on? Are there any particular tickers that you want to take a look at? I'm curious to know what everybody's got their eye on. I know a lot of folks were talking massive insider selling on Walmart, and Musk's brother sells on the 3rd. And also, not only that, you had homeboy from Apple, Tim Apple. He sold a bunch too. John Deere. Okay, we'll take a look at John Deere Pride Machinery. Any thoughts on massive insider selling on Walmart? I mean, I guess you never really want to see massive insider selling, period, right? Like, that doesn't bring any sort of conviction. What do they know that we don't know? It's concerning, absolutely concerning. You had Costco had a pretty bad earnings report, or maybe there wasn't earnings yesterday. I can't remember, but I know that they had some news yesterday that caused the stock to drop quite a few percent, I believe, in after hours. Yeah, let me see here if it was earnings. I don't think it was, but it might have been. Yeah, it wasn't earnings. I think they pre-announced that their earnings were not going to be very good. It's concerning, man. That's my thought about it. These are huge companies run by very, very powerful, very smart people. And when you see them selling, especially at the top, selling into this strength. Now, the thing you also have to remember about these names, or about insider selling just in general, is that insiders sell for all kinds of different reasons, right? Maybe they need to pay a debt. Maybe they need to buy a new estate. Who knows? Who knows why they're selling? Maybe they're just paying themselves. Let's take a look. I'm going to throw up insider selling here. Yeah, and the concerning thing is that it's all the Waltons selling, right? Like, it's not just any insider. It is the Waltons. These are the namesake of Walmart, and they are just like unloading to the tune of billions of dollars. I mean, Alice, over the past just couple of days, wild. 230 million, 275 million, 218 million. It's wild. And they've been unloading all of March, really, huh? I mean, this is huge. Certainly concerning. I would love to know. So they unloaded quite a bit in December too. Holy moly, these people are so rich. It's so crazy how much money is floating around out there. Let's see. In August they sold, but they weren't selling nearly the same amount. Well, I guess August 17th, 18th of last year, 130 million cells. But then in June, they're awarded these shares. So you're awarded 2,000 shares, you go and you sell them. Oh, but these are much bigger. All right, so wow. 932,000. So 932,000 shares is $130 million. Let's see what these most recent ones are. 2 million shares. Wow. Holy guacamole, y'all. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, so this is how far back our data goes. It goes back to, what, a year ago. So we can kind of see that this is not like wildly unusual for them. Seems like they're selling kind of at least at every quarter. To some degree, they're selling. Now, whether or not this is something to be concerned about, it's kind of hard to say. Truly, it's kind of hard to say, but I think it is to some degree. I think it is concerning. At least I kind of read it as a little bit concerning. The fact that they do seem to do this every couple of months makes it maybe a little less concerning. Tim Cook sold about 10 million worth of shares on Apple, 56,000 shares. This was on the 3rd, so just a couple of days ago. At the highs. Day before the high. It's interesting how the quarter ended, and then as soon as this week started, a new quarter, everything just turned. Hey, Jose, how's it going? RTYM. We could take a look at that. Let's look at John Deere real quick. DE. Huh. All right, let's start further out here. It's not the greatest look for this month, huh? So let's anchor VWAP from the COVID lows. So that July 2022 low came right into the anchored VWAP from the COVID low, held nice. One thing that we might want to do here, we might want to re-anchor. And so there's a little bit of a concern, right? You're now breaking down below that anchored VWAP from the lows, from the June lows, July lows. So let's do this. I always like to get a very quick like volume profile and see, you know, from an important low, where are our buyers? Where are the most people? And very clearly from those lows, see how much volume there was, accumulation. Well, or potentially this is distribution, right? You have a bunch of shares exchanged, purchased, sold, traded back and forth up here in these levels between 410, 450, 445 or so. So it's going to be a lot of overhead supply if price ever tries to, or when or if price ends up trying to come back into this. It's a lot of overhead supply up here, not nearly as much supply below. And you can see there's a little bit, let me actually, not sure how well y'all can see this, so I want to lighten it up for you. Lighten up the columns a little bit so we can see them a little bit better. Yeah, that's a little better. And so there's a little bit of a volume gap here, dropped right through it, and now there's a little bit of volume below that potentially could hold. I'm a levels guy. I'm a price action guy. So I kind of like to look for where candles start and stop, opens and closes. You can see there's a little bit of something here, right? Kind of price fluctuating in between this level, that 360 spot or so. We talked last show about fair value gaps. There's a little fair value gap in here. that we might look for. Might be what they're trying to hold. You know, they've kind of filled this now. A little fair value gap right there. And they're holding right at it. Not a huge surprise to see that. But they made a new high. They barely made a new high. So it looks like they kind of came in and they just took stops right here from these previous highs back in April. They took stops out and then they've rejected it. Now I'm looking at the big time frame, right? So let's keep that in mind. So we'll see. We'll see what they do. You know, really, if you're bullish here, you kind of want to see this pivot hold. Let me throw up some fibs. So they're right at the 618 from that pivot. Kind of goes right in line with your fair value gap too. So it'd be an interesting spot for them to try and hold. Let me draw my own here to here. And that's 50% retrace too. So, you know, for now, this just looks like a healthy retracement. And I would really be okay with it personally. If I were bullish, I would be okay with it into here too. Really, as long as it holds in there, for me, I would be all right with it. Of course, it's not what you want to see, especially if you're holding from higher up. But for now, seems okay. Just seems like some retracement of the move. Amazon. Looks like I've done a little bit of work on this one. Amazon is not one that I pay close attention to, but what's kind of interesting. Yeah, so this is just volume by price from the all-time high here. So we do have a little bit of a volume support down here. We'll take a look at BABA too. But they kind of lost that rising trend line from those lows. They retested it. They held a higher low. So really you want to see them come and make a new high. It needs to get up and over this trend line and make a new high here since it held this low. If it loses this low, then obviously you kind of got issues there, huh? What are we at? What is this, the 28th? So this is your COVID low anchored VWAP, well below the COVID low anchored VWAP, well below the anchored VWAP from the all-time high. If this thing is able to continue higher, those are going to be two big spots that are going to be problematic. Let's see from the 2018 lows. Same deal. You just got a bunch of trap buyers is the only thing here on Amazon. If we go to, let me go to a bigger time frame. See, on a bigger time frame though, this is where things get tricky. You know, this is why I think it's really, really important to always look at all the time frames you can. Look big to small. On a bigger time frame, they really kind of held exactly where they needed to from a price action perspective. This candle right here, this low. Right, this is your big pivot low that took you all the way back up, right? So then you would be looking for, somewhere in this candle to hold. Generally speaking, I would be looking for kind of the close of it to hold. Let me use a brighter trend line there. Or rather, I guess this is the open. I'd be looking for the open of it to hold. And that's really what they did. They kind of scooped these lows here. They might have tried to go for stops below this guy. Yeah, see, they tried. They didn't quite get them. But I would be looking for somewhere in here to hold. You know, obviously if you take out this low, that's pretty problematic, right? Because you have very few pivots during this whole section, really from 2005 to 2018. You kind of have very few pivots in here. So this low is really, really important. You want to see that hold. And so far they have. You got a pretty big volume shelf. If we just start from that's kind of interesting too. If you start from kind of the beginning of the move, You've got VWAP and point of control right there at that 88 spot. So 88, big important level that if you're bullish on Amazon, that's the spot. That's really the spot to hold. You see they kind of took it out. They scooped any stops there. They ran it. They came back. They tested it. They held it almost to the penny. So pretty important there on Amazon. If you're a long-term, I guess I'm kind of catering this analysis towards long-term holders. So if you wanted to look at something smaller time frame, we certainly can, but I always like to start bigger. So this is interesting from the gap up. What, on the 30th? They took all the they took out all the stops. Cruel. Anyway, Bezos sold too. Oh no, he was gifted. Oh, just a cool 260,000 shares. No big deal for Bezos. Oh, and then he was gifted. Geez, the day before he was gifted 167,000 shares. Wow. Dude was gifted like over like 750,000 shares over the past month. Must be good to be Jeff Bezos, huh? Baba? Oh, RYTM? RYTM? Is this Jose? Is it RTYM or RYTM that you were looking for there, sir? I think we've looked at this before. Let me remove all of this. So whenever I have a ticker that is relatively new-ish, this thing is what, 4.5, 5 years old. I'm always gonna put my volume by price at the very first candle, just because there's not a ton of data here. It's good to know, and it gives us something pretty important, right? You have your volume weighted average price from the IPO, where price is failing here. I mean, again, almost to the penny, right there at that VWAP. So that's going to be a big spot. That's your average buyer from the IPO. So almost 5 years of data. And your average buyer is now losing on this trade. And you can see it's been important over time. It's kind of been an important level, that 18.25 or 18 and what, 18 3/4, 1875 or so. Pretty important spot. Now our head and shoulders folks might look at this, right? This is your first shoulder. Here's your head. Maybe you get another shoulder over here somewhere. That's certainly possible. I've seen lots of this pattern kind of play out over time. The only thing that I'd be concerned about here is that they were not able to make a new high. They came into it, but they did not make a new high, which would give me a little bit more belief that it might hold. But we'll see. To me, I'd be watching that 1874 spot, though, kind of VWAP from the IPO. We'll anchor a VWAP there so you guys can kind of see it a little bit better. We got the VWAP line, but it's horizontal. It doesn't give us as good of an understanding. But here, this is very clear. So I would personally, if I were in this, I would be keeping a very close eye on that, because price below that is not what you want to see. You want to see price above it if you're bullish. Let's see from these lows. Yeah, so this is where they caught it. They caught it at the anchor VWAP from the June 2022 lows, almost to the penny. I know a lot of people talk about, here at TrendSpider, we talk about these anchor VWAPs a lot. They're just one of the most powerful indicators. And me being more of a price action focused trader, knowing kind of what's going on with price and where your average buyer is personally very helpful for me. Not saying you should use it on everything you do, but inside bars or specific candles, absolutely. Austin, good morning. Dean, how's it going? Let's look at Baba real quick. So the first thing that clearly they did was they held a low. On the monthly side, they're just going inside on the month so far. Let's go to weekly. Potentially a little inverse head and shoulders thing setting up, huh? Right into those previous lows over here from May. Held them really nicely. Had quite a bit of volume into them too. So this looks like a bit of conviction in this move, but this is a pretty big move over the past 2 weeks. From 80 to 105. I mean, that's over 20% now. 32. It's a big move. Wouldn't be surprised to see it go sideways for a bit after such a big move. Let's see what's going on in this world here. Kind of smaller time frame. I'm gonna anchor to these lows. Yeah, so you've got a gap below at that 89 spot. You got VWAP there. You got the 50% retrace from the October low to the, January high. I guess they kind of already did it. They held it here. And then they kind of faked out below. Took a bunch of stops. At least filled this gap. There's still a small gap here. And there's still a little small gap here too, huh? I guess there's one right here too. Quite a few little gaps. I don't know, on a short-term time frame, maybe I would anchor VWAP to the gap up candle, the big volume here. I'm not sure what happened on this day. You probably know better than I do. I can go to a smaller time frame and kind of see. So if I was like day trading this, I would be keeping a close eye on this anchored VWAP. Again, where are our buyers from this gap up? It's a pretty important spot. Lots of volume. There was conviction in this. We want to see buyers kind of hold the line. If price falls below it, then we start thinking about buyers becoming sellers, right? They're holding the point of control here. But this would be a pretty key area for me to be watching, kind of in here between 99 bucks and 98 and a half. I'd be a little bit more willing to be bullish above it, be a little bit more willing to be bearish below it. And it's all relative to your time frame though. So guys, we're half an hour into this thing. Did you guys know that we are celebrating Easter with a nice little discount for y'all? If anybody's interested, we've got an Easter sale going on, 50% off, up to 50% off. You get 50% off the Elite Plus plan, 50% off the Elite plan, 25% off the Essential plan. Pretty good deals on TrendSpider right now, and this is going to be good until Sunday. So if you are not yet a TrendSpider user and you've been thinking about getting on the platform, now is the time to give it a go. You get a free 7-day trial, so you really got no reason not to try it. I mean, why not give it a go for 7 days? We got a long weekend. You could play around with all the tools. I would take advantage of this if I were you. Also, while we're promoting ourselves, if you guys could give me a like and a subscribe to this channel, that would be super primo helpful. I really enjoy doing these every week. I'm live on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I'm also sometimes live for, well, I'm always live for big data points. So like next week, we've got CPI. I'm going to be live for CPI. We're going to be watching the market reaction to it. We'll be live, and that's going to be like a midday stream. That'll be like 1:30 Eastern time. But I can only do these if you guys show up to them. So I need y'all to give me some likes. I need y'all to subscribe to the channel and tune in as often as you can. You know, as it's helpful for you. I don't want you to just tune in for me. I want to be here to help you guys. But by y'all tuning in, liking, subscribing, that gives me the ability to continue doing these. So I appreciate any likes and subscribes y'all can throw my way. I do appreciate it very much. Let's keep on looking. AMC. Oh. So let's talk inside bars, outside bars, specific candles. Austin. So this candle patterns button. I'm going to turn off everything else so that we can focus on it just for a second. So candle patterns. The platform can automatically discover all kinds of things. We've got all of the strat setups. If you're familiar with the strat, we've got all of those pre-set up. And pretty much every candle style, individual candle style, and set of candles, we can automatically discover on the platform. So for example, let's like say engulfing. We'll throw that up. And it's going to automatically discover any engulfing candle that's on the platform. Now, what this allows us then to do is it allows this discovery mode allows us to utilize candlesticks in all of the other periphery tools. So for example, let's say we want to scan for inside bars. Super easy. You go to add parameters, say condition, candlestick pattern, and let's look for like weekly inside bars. And you can define whether you want it to be bullish or bearish. So is it a green candle? Is it a red candle? So let's say bullish. Click that current candle on. That means it'll be looking at this week's weekly candle. Select your scan through list. Let's say NMS composite. And generally speaking, when I'm looking for something like this, I'm going to add additional filtering parameters so that I don't get back a wild amount of results. There's going to be a lot of tickers that come back as inside bars, I would guess, especially on NASDAQ, especially after the move that we've had over the past, well, really all of last quarter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a couple things here. I'm going to say the daily price is closing greater than a constant value of, let's say, 20 bucks. So we're filtering out everything below 20 bucks. And let's add volume here too. You guys know I like to filter for volume and price. Simple things that can make a big difference. So we'll say constant value and let's say 1 million. So this just means that on a daily basis, on average, we're looking for stocks that are above 20 bucks, trade at least 1 million shares per day on average, and have an inside bullish bar on the weekly. And so we'll look for it. Now we could go wild with this, Austin. We could look for a lot of different candlestick styles. Look for like any of the following. We could change this all of the following to any of the following. We could change it to none of the following. We can add condition groups and define, we want inside bars that look like this. We want outside bars that look like this. We want, you know, if you can dream it, we can probably script it at least to some degree. We could probably get pretty darn close to what you're looking for. So if you have specific things that you're looking for, let me know and I can like talk you through those very specific things. On a top level though, this is how you would use it. Scanner's working pretty darn slow this morning though. That's a little frustrating. But you can also, you could be alerted on these things. You can use candlestick styles in your multi-factor alerts if you want to. You can back test. You can strategy test inside bars. So NTES. NetEase. Weekly inside NetEase. Green bar. Yeah, so here are your, it looks like it's still working, but here are your weekly inside bars on the NMS composite. Super good for anybody who is a strat trader. If you're trading the strat, this is going to be helpful for you. Like I said, we've got all the strat setups too, so very quickly and easily you can find, 3, 1, 2 up or whatever it is you might be looking for. Does that kind of answer your question, Austin? Did you have any other specific questions that you needed help with on that? Or are we good to move on? You feel good about it? Because we really could spend an hour talking candlestick patterns and all the different things you could do with them. But if that kind of helps you on your way, and you guys can always reach out to me too. You know, I'm an open book. I'm here really. I serve at your leisure. So anytime you guys need help with anything TrendSpider related, even when I'm not live, my Twitter handle is right here at Krutzky Trades. As long as you're on Twitter, give me a follow and hit me with questions. You guys can always DM me. I'm happy to help you with anything that you need. If I can't answer a question, I know somebody who can. So going to jump to Dean's charts here. AMC. Dean, what are you doing with AMC, sir? Unless you're short. Ooh, that's pretty ugly, huh? So hold on, let me go back because I have a big line here. Why the big line? Okay. So this is the scene of the crime. 443. This is the scene of the crime. And I say it's the scene of the crime because it's where it all started. It's where this move started from, right? You had that big move higher. You came back, you tested, you pretty much held 443, and then it was off to the freaking races. And so what you look for when price ultimately retraces the entire way is you look for that 443 to come in and be important. And clearly very important here. So that's why that 443 level, that's why I've got that marked there. And you can, when we go to a smaller time frame, it gets even more apparent, right? Now, could they go all the way here? Yes. They could go all the way down into here, $2.50. And they'd still kind of be okay. You know, they're still holding a higher low, technically. Still holding a higher low. But man, this company, their CEO just seems like such a scammy guy. Let's go to a smaller time frame. Interesting. Held the lows from January to, I don't know, man. I don't know what your plan is with this, but to me, it's like, why trade this when you could trade something that's maybe easier and better to trade? Because you just never know with this guy, right? Today he's talking about, today's pumping his stock, and tomorrow he's selling a bunch of shares, right? Like they're doing offerings of huge amounts of shares. Let's see what's the latest. Let's look at insider selling here, and I want to see what's going on with news. So I'm just adding a couple of things. Court denies AMC's request to proceed with company's plan for increasing authorized common shares, a stock conversion, and a reverse split. Huh. This is kind of interesting. Millennium Management, a 5.3% passive stake in the company. I wonder if this is the Millennium that I think it is. Because Millennium's a pretty big hedge fund. Wish I had a link. But it does not seem to have a link. Yeah, so I don't know. I keep a big eye on that 443 spot. It's pretty important. If you want to be bullish this thing, I definitely would want to be, I would definitely want price to be above it, personally. But that's just me, you know. I'm just one guy with just one opinion. Market's open now. Let's take, oh, hold on. HLLPF. Hello, pal. Ooh, bro. What is this? Yeah, you can't even like analyze charts that look like this, is the reality. I don't know what this is, but looks like it trades 5 shares a day. Dean, I'm sorry, man. I wish I had better news for you. I just don't know. I don't know. With something that looks like this, really all this is you're just waiting for a catalyst, right? It's trading at 3 cents. In a very tight range. It looks like it gets very little volume. Yeah, no problem, man. Happy to look at things for you. Let's take a look at SPY. See what's going on over here at SPY. Looks like SPY's still selling off, coming into yesterday's low. And there's a bit of a volume gap here too. Quite a few gaps below left to fill. And they were not able to make a new high either, huh? Let me see what's going on with options. My guess is today is going to be a pretty slow day. Unusual options looks pretty heavily skewed on the put side. That looks pretty gnarly. You can gauge kind of what's going on in options land just by the color of the chart here. Obviously, red are puts, green are calls. And of course, yes, there's certainly some put selling amongst this bunch. We can kind of gauge how we feel about let's go SPY here. We can kind of gauge what we think about SPY by where the bids were played. Like, were people buying at the bid? Were they buying at the ask? Kind of gives us a slight understanding of whether or not these were sold or purchased or bought. And that's what gives these bullish bearish tags how close to the strike, or how close to the ask they were purchased at, or the offer rather, the bid. So SPY not looking super great. Looking like it's going for yesterday's lows. Q's already took yesterday's lows. Interesting. Not the greatest look. But, you know, it's early days. And these things have moved so much over the past couple of months. Really, all last quarter was just a big move for the Qs. So seeing some pullback here is not a surprise. New quarter, new ideas, right? 23% from low to high. That's a huge move in a quarter. See what's going on with IWM. IWM also selling off. Not looking super great out there. Does anybody know off the top of their head the healthcare ETF? XL, maybe H? No. XLI? No. XL. I don't know. Does anybody know it off the top? Because I know healthcare is doing quite well right now, like large cap healthcare, but I can't think of the ticker. Let me hunt it down. XLV. Man, kind of looks like Amazon like a year and a half ago, doesn't it? Like this section. those COVID lows. Right into the point of control and gaining it. See how powerful this point of control has been? This 133 level, really, really important on this guy. It's where the most volume at price is. And they're trying to push through it. If they can push through this 133 spot, that is pretty darn bullish for healthcare, for mega cap healthcare here. Unusual options are pretty mixed. Kind of skews a little bit more bearish looking like. Skews more put heavy. Let's take a look at energy. I'm going to look at oil futures real quick because, man, this thing is just getting tight up here. Be interesting to see which direction they end up pushing this. But they are really holding it. Does anybody have any TrendSpider related questions? I'm just kind of like zooming around charts here, seeing what's out there. Do you guys have any questions for me? I've got about 15 minutes left to hang out with y'all. You know, one thing we could go over if you guys want, we could talk earnings. We do have earnings season kicking up here, I believe in about 10 days, 10-ish days. Of course, earnings tends to start with the banks. Jumping into JPM. Let me add earnings. So JP Morgan, earnings on the 14th. So that's in 5 days, or 5 sessions rather. Not 5 days, but 5 sessions. JP Morgan on the 14th. BAC. You know, so this is a common way that you would be looking for earnings dates, right? Jumping through charts, have the earnings on your chart, see when it is. But there's a better way. You can actually scan for earnings. So we could say condition, and we can come down here and say earnings dates, right? Within the next X days. Let's say 10. Put that current candle on. And then let's look at, I don't know. We'll look at the NYSE and see what's coming up. Tilray. Dean. Tilray. While that's doing its thing, we'll look at Tilray. Dean. Sir. I mean, unless you've just been short for, you know, the eternity of this thing. They have earnings tomorrow. Well, earnings on the 10th, rather. So earnings, what, Monday? But, man, all this thing does is make new lows. That's really all it does. I don't know what kind of fundamental thing is going to happen, or what kind of fundamental thing has to happen in order to right the ship for these weed names. But they are, historically, they are not the best place to be. They have not been the best place to be over the past 2 years. 2020 was a different world. But these days, man, again, why trade this when you could trade something that looks so much better than this? Oh no, Dean, Nightbot, got you. I don't know what you said. Hold on, let me see. Dean, you wild, man. Gosh, scanner is so slow today. What is going on here? Yeah, I don't know, man. Tilray, not great. So Citibank, let's see. Starting to get some results back here. Citibank, what, on the 14th? Yeah, so we got banks coming. Is the big takeaway here? Banks have earnings coming up, and you could scan for them. You could scan for all kinds of things with earnings. You can scan for the date. You can scan for the value. So EPS, percentage change, surprise percentage. One thing that I like to do, like for example, you might be wanting to look for something that has positive EPS growth over the past couple of quarters or something like that. You could do it. So you could say greater than EPS greater than EPS, right? And when you change instead of candles, it's reports, right? So you could say, you know, the last one was better than the one before, and so on. You could look for multiple quarters of EPS growth. You could even remove that the earnings are coming, and you just look for tickers that have multiple quarters of growth or multiple quarters of deceleration or whatever. We're going to be sending you guys, the reason I bring it up is we're going to be sending you guys an email very soon that has kind of a pre-built scanner that looks for just these things that you guys can access and utilize. I'll show you what it looks like because I built it. Here's your 2 quarters of EPS growth. Earnings within the next 15 days, 2 quarters of EPS growth, and then some of those filtering mechanics that I mentioned earlier, price above $10, daily volume above 500,000 a day. And then we were looking for previous quarter. So quarter 1 closed higher than quarter 4 of last year. So it's a pretty cool little scan. Essentially meant to find strong, you know, just strength, really. Companies that are strong both fundamentally and on the charts technically. Zim is a shipper, huh? That's pretty gnarly gap down. And you love these bottom feeders, huh? I know it was all the rage back in 2021. They could not get enough of this ticker. I was at an event and I was hanging out with Christian Fromhertz and Jonah Lupton, and both of them were talking about Zim. So with new tickers like this, again, like I said, I always like to anchor a VWAP from the start, from the IPO. I like to know where these things are. So here's to me, it's kind of problematic, in my opinion. You're stuck below point of control from those, from the IPO. And I mean, super clean, stuck below it, right? Like lots of volume occurred here. This 23.5 level, obviously very, very important. Was really nice support throughout the back half of, or the back quarter of 2022. They lost it. When they came back to test it, they couldn't get above it. And now we've got a really gnarly move. This is not really what you want to see if you're bullish. Pretty much have to hold. I don't know. They're pretty much there. Like this is kind of make or break spot, I think. 1740, kind of where you're at. It doesn't look great though. It doesn't look like they're going to, but I think if they were to fail below it, you'd probably be likely to see somewhere in here, $12, $12.50. Because there's just nothing, there's not really any volume between, you know, there's just nothing there below these lows. There's nothing to stop this thing from just careening lower. So I would keep a tight stop, Dean. Don't know what your plan is, but be careful here because there's just very, very little volume to catch this thing if it's not able to hold these lows. Now they could come down and they could take out all the lows and turn it back around. They could definitely do that. You know, you got to figure that there are a lot of stops down here, probably around 1625 or so. The December lows, there's probably a ton of stops below it. So they could come down, scoop the low, take out all the stops, and then run it, at least to some degree bounce it. Because then you become really oversold at that point, you know, once you take out all these stops. And they might do that. But I think if they do that, ultimately you're gonna find your way down to 12.5 bucks at some point. It could be a year from now. I don't know. Bed Bath & Beyond. You guys, what are you doing trading these stocks, y'all? Waiting for the pump. Charts that look like this, generally speaking, you just want to stay away from. I know that it's enticing to get into them on days when they pump like crazy, but generally speaking, I would say best to avoid. A strong avoid. Well, I'm coming up on time here, y'all. I do appreciate y'all hanging out with me for this pre-market hour. Last call for any questions. Does anybody have any questions? Any comments, concerns? Any things you want to discuss briefly before I've got to get on out of here? Speak now or forever hold your peace until Tuesday, when I'll be back again and we can do this again. Talk more shop. No problem, Dean. Happy to help. No problem, good goy. All right, y'all. Well, if no questions, then I'm probably going to dip on out of here. Like I said, I do thank you very much for tuning in today. Again, up to 50% off on our Easter sale this morning. Here is a link for you all. We only scratched the surface of what is possible on this platform this morning. So take the long weekend. If you're not yet a TrendSpider user, take the long weekend. Sign up for an account. You got 7 days to give it a go. Play around with it. Put together some questions. Let's talk again on Tuesday. I will be back here again on Tuesday, next Tuesday. Again, 9 a.m. Eastern time. And I will answer all of your questions for you. Please give me a like and subscribe. We got a bunch of likes today. Thank you very much. Hopefully we got a bunch of subscribes too. Give me a follow on Twitter at Krutzky Trades. Follow TrendSpider on Twitter at TrendSpider. And we will be back. Like I said, we'll be back again on Tuesday. I hope you guys have a great holiday weekend, a great long weekend. And I look forward to seeing y'all again next week. Yeah? Yeah. All right. Well, take care, guys. Have a good one. We'll see you soon.